Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take another look at Wayne Dyer's Wisdom of the Ages, 60 Days to Enlightenment. That's a hell of a claim. All right. So this chapter we're looking at here is called Being Childlike. Let me see, just for reference, what chapter it is. I think it's like 5 or 6. They're all pretty short, like 2 or 3 pages. Buddha, Lao Tzu, Confucius, Patanjali, Marcus Tullius Cicero, which was Last Time Triumph, and Jesus of Nazareth for today. Page 27, Being Childlike. Excuse me. Now, the poem here at the top, or the quote, says, "Except ye be converted and become as little as children, ye shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven." Jesus of Nazareth. Circa 6 BC to AD 30. Jesus Christ is one of the world's major religious figures, regarded by Christians as the Messiah, predicted by the Old Testament prophets. Recently, while preparing to give a lecture in a town far from home, I had the strange experience of looking directly into a wall mirror while sitting at a desk. The entire wall was one gigantic mirror, and every time I looked up, there was this body looking back at me while I was writing in a notepad. Finally, I just stopped and stared back. I couldn't grasp the fact that this was actually me reflected in the mirror. I remember saying to myself, "That's an old man who is renting my face." As I stared back, I thought of the invisible being living inside each of us. This being is without boundaries or form, thus no beginning or end. This is the silent, invisible witness that is ageless and unchanging. This is the eternal child inside each of us. It is as ageless children that we become synonymous with heaven, which represents that eternity where forms and boundaries, beginning and ends, ups and downs, are all meaningless. Thinking back to the last video, the difference between a subjective positionality versus non-positionality, not choosing sides, no ups or downs. All right. Heaven is not a place with borders, perimeters, edges, and precincts. Rather, it represents that which transcends demarcations. I'll add labels or names or sides or positionalities. Rather, it represents, that which transcends demarcation. It is the same as that little child Jesus speaks of in this telling observation. In there, always with us, never aging, yet watching, always watching. Noticing the drooping of the eyelids, the wrinkling of the skin, and the silvering of the hair. Indeed, it is an old man who is renting my face these days. The ageless child in me, my eternal, unchanging observer, knows nothing of judgment and hatred. There is nothing to judge, and no one to hate. Why? Because it doesn't see appearances. It only knows how to look with love on everything and everyone. Think of essence as compared to form, or the truth of what we don't see as compared to what we do see. The unexplainable, maybe? It is what I call the absolute allower. It simply allows everything to be as it is, and only notices the unfolding in every one it encounters. You could call it the unfolding of God. Being without shape, size, color, or positionality, this ageless child inside, our spirit, source, our higher self, whatever you want to call it, this ageless child inside fails to notice such trivial distinctions. Not living on either side of any man-made border, it cannot indulge in ethnic or cultural identification, and thus warfare over these artificial terminus points is impossible. Consequently, that invisible ageless child is always at peace, just witnessing, just observing, but most important, just allowing. I'll jump in here. It seems like one of the most constant themes throughout a lot of the spiritual studies that I go through is the ability to surrender. The distinction between what we call humiliation and true humility. To where when you have humility, it's impossible to be humiliated because you've let go of any attachments. It's that surrender theme once again, but it also goes with the same thing as humiliation and humility. Surrender also has a negative connotation and then an infinite meaning, to where surrender could be the opposite of domination, or just like humility to humiliation, there could be a surrender that is a transcendent aspect. It goes beyond giving up. It's a detachment from the physical. I think that's the best way to say it. But it's this letting go and this allowing and trusting. Humility and surrender seem to constantly be the most effective solutions to the problems and emotions and struggles that we deal with in life. It's fascinating. Anyways, let's see if I can find the spot again. Invisible, ageless child is always at peace, just witnessing, just observing, but most important, just allowing. The allowing. Recently I had the experience of running early one morning and feeling so exhilarated that I hurdled over 3.5-foot fence as I came back to the hotel. At the completion of my run, my wife, Wayne Dyer, saying this, who was observing me, let out a scream and said, "You can't do that. You don't jump over fences when you're 56 years old. You could kill yourself." My immediate response to her was, "Oh, I forgot." That invisible, ageless me, who is my eternal observer, forgot for an instant that it was living in a body that has been here for over half a century. And I'm sure you listening now has done something like this before, to where you go to do an activity and realize that the you that is inside of you is far more ageless than your actual form. And to me, that's proof of non-physical existence. But I'm always looking for that. To me, this passage of Jesus's from the New Testament speaks to the process of forgetting about our bodies as a primary identification or identity, forgetting about our ethnic identity, our spoken language, cultural label, the shape of our eyes, or what side of the border we grew up on, and then making the conversation to become as little children, who are impervious to such compartmentalizing. Jesus was not saying we should be childish and become immature, undisciplined, and uneducated. Instead, he was referring to being childlike, which is non-judgmental, loving, accepting, and incapable of placing labels on anyone or anything. When we are able to be as little children, we realize that in every adult, there is a child who desperately wants to be known. It is the child who is full and the adult who is usually empty. The fullness of the child is evident in peace, love, non-judgment, and allowing. The emptiness of the adult reveals itself in fear, anxiety, prejudgment, and fighting, the opposite of allowing or surrender. Resistance. Enlightenment can be seen as a process of remembering that in the heart of the little child there is purity. As in, for us, when we place labels on things and see ourselves as separate from everything, there is no longer that purity. And it is this pure divine love and acceptance that is the ticket to what Wayne Dyer here calls the kingdom of heaven. But do not be confused by that label, because as we're learning here, labels and essences are two different things. So what you think of as the kingdom of heaven, let that be your own determination. Make it one of your goals in life to be more childlike in everything you do. The quality that we see in geniuses is equivalent to the inquisitiveness of children. The mind of the beginner. Geniuses and children share a willingness to explore without thoughts of failure or worries about criticism. I think the key word in this passage is converted. We are being told to become something that is perfect, kind, loving, and above all, eternal. It resides in each of us, and it cannot age or die. The gentle, silent witness is what we want to convert to. That naive but imaginative mystic who is naturally spiritual is the child we want to convert to. When we do, we become childlike and leave behind our childish adult ways. Isn't that a paradox? Which are the ways that prevent us from entering the eternal kingdom. That kingdom is available to you here and now on earth, as it is also in what some may call heaven. All you have to do is to make that conversion. To do so, Wayne Dyer puts here a few suggestions. Spend as much time as you can. Spend as much time as you can manage observing the little children. And that's something I notice when I'm around my nephew, how blissful, how unaware. It makes me think of the ignorance is bliss saying. It's like if you don't know, if you haven't been told what everything is and how you're supposed to think about things, you just go around experiencing. Everything's like, whoa. Like you might have picked up a toy car already, but when you do, it's just full experience. You're not like, another toy car again. Here, it's amazing. The ancient thinker Heraclitus, that's an interesting name, once said, man is most nearly himself when he achieves the seriousness of a child at play. I thought about that before. How when you're playing with a dog, it's not like they're laughing. They're totally involved. They have a seriousness about them, but you can see by the action of their tail or the demeanor of their noises that they're not angry in any way. They have a seriousness about their play, which is a confusing thing to me. It seems as adults, us humans separate seriousness from play. It's a fascinating point. Thought I'd point that out. Once said, man is most nearly himself when he achieves the seriousness of a child at play. Be more childlike, playful, loving, and inquisitive as you make your conversion to the kingdom. When you find yourself acting serious or stodgy, remind yourself of the invisible observer, the invisible observer inside you that is noticing your somber side. And you can do that when you feel bad or whatever it be, somber. There is an observer inside of you that notices that. And it's important and extremely helpful to connect to the observer rather than the emotional experiencer. Like when you think of it, when you call yourself a jerk, like, I'm a jerk, there's the part of you that's the jerk, and then there's the part of you that's the self-righteous jerk caller. You're labeling people as jerks when it's all really you. And so if you can realize that you called yourself a jerk and that there's a third party witnessing all of this that's unattached, maybe you can begin to see things from the unattached point of view. Then you're not a jerk. Then you're not a jerk or a non-jerk. It's all just a game. When you find yourself being serious, remind yourself of this invisible observer inside you. Is that observer grim as well? You'll quickly see that your childlike witness cannot be at all like what it is witnessing. Then vow to make the immediate conversion. Make the decision that I am never going to let an old person inhabit my body. Your body may indeed be rented by an aging being, but that eternal, invisible observer who is noticing it all will stay childlike, innocent, and ready at the appointed time with such an attitude firmly in place. Be ready to enter the kingdom, or that blissful, unnamed allness, the universe, source, Tao, God. I just think using the term heaven really puts a externalized, a positionality. It's like you're separate from a location. And that's the key point to understand in all this spiritual work, is going beyond the separateness or the positionalities. David Hawkins talks about it like going from linear to non-linear, the linear Newtonian paradigm, to something that transcends and goes beyond the linear mind. Maybe the separation between science and mysticism. The next chapter will be called Divinity. Fascinating. These are all surprising, and they're nice and short. Well, hope you enjoyed that, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be back in the future with more Wisdom of the Ages from Wayne Dyer. Be sure to get this book for yourself. It's certainly a great reference piece to have on the bookshelf. Anyways, hope you enjoyed. Thank you.